You ever catch yourself trapped in your own mind? Like, there's something you want to do, something you need to do, but instead of acting, you sit there, thinking, replaying every possible scenario, every what if, until you've convinced yourself that doing nothing is the safest option. That, my friend, is overthinking, and it's a silent killer. It feels productive, doesn't it? Like you're preparing, strategizing, making sure you don't mess up. But let's call it what it really is. Mental quicksand. The more you think, the deeper you sink. Because here's the truth. Overthinking doesn't lead to clarity. It leads to confusion. It doesn't solve problems. It creates them. And worst of all, it stops you from taking the very actions that could change your life. Let's break it down. The fear loop. Overthinking usually starts with fear. You're afraid of failing, of being judged, of making the wrong choice. So, instead of acting, you think. And then you think some more. And the more you think, the scarier it gets. You start imagining worst-case scenarios. You picture yourself embarrassing yourself, losing everything, being laughed at. And before you know it, you've talked yourself out of even trying. But here's the thing. Those worst-case scenarios, they're in your head. They're not real. They're just stories you've created to justify staying in your comfort zone. And that's the trap. Overthinking doesn't protect you, it paralyzes you. Paralysis by analysis. You've heard this term before, right? It's when you analyze a situation so much that you can't make a decision. It's like standing in the middle of a fork in the road, staring at both paths and thinking, what if I choose the wrong one? But let me ask you something. What's worse, choosing the wrong path or standing there forever, going nowhere? Because that's what overthinking does. It keeps you stuck. And while you're stuck, time is passing. Opportunities are passing. Life is passing. Do you see the problem here? The confidence killer. Overthinking doesn't just waste time. It destroys confidence. Every time you overthink, you're telling yourself, I don't trust myself to make this decision. And that doubt, that hesitation, chips away at your self-belief. Think about it. How many times have you second-guessed yourself only to realize later that your first instinct was right? Your gut, your intuition, it's smarter than you think. But every time you ignore it, every time you let overthinking take over, you weaken it. And here's the irony. The more you overthink, the harder it gets to trust yourself. It's a vicious cycle. The solution: action. So how do you break free? How do you stop overthinking and start living up to your potential? It's simple. You act. I know, that sounds too easy. But hear me out. The hardest part of any task isn't doing it. It's starting. Once you take that first step, momentum kicks in. And suddenly, the thing you were so scared of doesn't seem so scary anymore. Here's a little trick. When you catch yourself overthinking, give yourself a timer. 5 seconds. That's all. Count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then act. Send the email, make the call, take the step. Because once you start, the overthinking stops. Shift your focus. Another way to beat overthinking? Shift your focus. Instead of obsessing over what could go wrong, start thinking about what could go right. What if that risk you're scared to take turns out to be the best decision you've ever made? What if the thing you're hesitating on is the thing that changes everything? You don't know until you try, and yeah, you might fail. But failure isn't the end. It's feedback. Every failure teaches you something. Every mistake makes you better. So why not take the leap? Why not give yourself a chance? Stop trying to control everything. Here's another reason we overthink. We want control. We want to know how things will turn out before we act. We want guarantees. But life doesn't work like that. There are no guarantees. There's no way to predict the future. But that's the beauty of it. The uncertainty, the unknown. It's where the magic happens. So stop trying to control everything. Let go. Trust yourself. Final thoughts. Overthinking is a thief. It steals your time, your confidence, your potential. But only if you let it. The next time you catch yourself spiraling, ask yourself this: what's the worst that could happen? And then ask yourself, what's the best that could happen? Because chances are the best case scenario is worth the risk. So stop thinking. Start doing. And watch what happens when you finally get out of your own way.